Hello, once again, this is Matt with more practical tips for you to use at home. And today we're going to cover something that is, of course, very seasonally appropriate with weather across a lot of the United States warming it up and all of the various creepy crawly critters from insects to mice to snakes coming out in various parts of the country. What we're going to talk about is insect control around your home. Okay, so first I want to let everybody know that basically you don't really probably have to subscribe to a paid pest control service, one of these monthly treatment companies, unless you really have some serious bug problems around your house. Um, it is entirely possible and practical to take care of bug control problems yourself without any real help from some supposed expert company or whatever. You can do a lot of these things yourself, and especially if you keep the steps and everything relatively simple, and especially also if you keep the right framework in mind. Okay, you keep the right perspective, the right attitude about this thing. Okay. One of the things you do not, what you want to understand is that um, when you're trying to basically keep the bugs and things out of your house, understand you are not winning the war on insects. Okay. It's not going to happen. All right. There are trillions and trillions of insects out there. And I think there's, maybe a billion or so for every one human on Earth. And there's 7.6 billion of us. So you are not winning the war on bugs. They vastly outnumber us. Okay. So that's not going to happen. That's not the goal of what I'm going to tell you today. And it is not necessary to do that or take that perspective or that attitude about it. What you are trying to do when you're doing the proper insect control is establish boundaries around your house where the bugs understand, they get the basic message that they are not welcome around your house and they would be happier somewhere else. Okay, they need to go someplace else. All right, so that's what we're actually trying to do. All right, so there's three steps to the approach that I usually use around my house. Now, I do happen to live in the good old desert Southwest here in the US of A. So some of these things will vary slightly depending upon what part of the country you live in. Some things will also need to be adjusted depending on if you have pets such as dog or cats, or if you have small children running the house who tend to, they run around and they tend to get into things and stick their hands into various crevices, between couch cushions or whatever. And they like to go exploring and maybe run into some risks that way. So let me go ahead and give you basically these three steps. I use what we call a three-part approach. Okay. And so the first thing we're going to do, we're starting from the outside of the house and working our way inwards. Okay. So the first thing I do is spray. Okay. I do use some insect spray. All right. And I usually go to the big box hardware store, like many folks, and I will buy a reasonably priced brand. And I usually get the concentrate. And I recommend that you do this because it's a good economical way to go and it'll last you quite a while. Especially during drier weather. If your summers where you live tend to be pretty dry, as they do here in the Southwest, then yeah, this will last you for a while. So I get a tank sprayer, which of course has a pump handle on the top, and usually the really good ones pump up pressure both directions. So whether you push down or pull up on the handle, it's still putting pressure into that container. And it's got a hose and a little wand applicator on it with a nice little adjustable nozzle on the end so you can get a stream or a fine spray. I use this kind of approach because I think it gives you economical and also precise application of these spray insect control chemicals. I'm not a big fan of having to use chemicals, but I think in a lot of cases it's just simply necessary. It's a good precaution. And I try and apply it in a precise way so that I don't have to use a whole lot in the first place. And I think it's better off. It's healthier for your house and the environment, and it's also healthier for your wallet as well. So I think that's a good way to go. And what I do is I'll mix this stuff up, probably a gallon, half a gallon to a gallon at a time, and I will follow the instructions on the bottle, of course, of the concentrate that you usually just mix with water. And I will pump that thing up, and I go around and I spray around the outside of the base of my house, right at the foundation level. And that's fairly easy for me because my house is a slab on grade construction. So the concrete is just right on the ground. I have no basement or crawl space underneath. So that's not even remotely an issue. And so I spray around the whole base of the slab. I go around the back patio. I have a back patio. And then anytime you have the external support columns, I recommend spraying around the base of those as well. Especially here in the Southwest, we tend to have a lot of homes that have stucco. So those exterior columns and everything, they have drainage openings at the bottom, and especially spiders love to crawl up in those and make webs and everything. So I have run across issues with, for example, black widows. So that's not fun. So you want to definitely keep those under control. And then once you've gone around that, if you have a typical yard with the block fence or wall, made out of the cinder blocks, then I recommend, if you have, enough spray to do it, I recommend going around and spraying in some of these gaps. You'll notice on the construction of those block fence that you'll find that there are certain spots that are kind of a column, and it's the fence meets in this. There's two sections that meet basically, and it's been covered. They put these blocks over it, and of course everything's all mortared in place, but those can be hollow under there, and they can hide a lot of insects in there, especially anything that's really small. And so you want to spray on either side of one of these things. It looks kind of like a column on your fence, your block fence outside. So you can get a lot of creatures can fit in there. One of the particular concerns, of course, in our area is these small scorpions. We have what are known as bark scorpions because they're known for outdoors anyway. They climb tree bark. They are unfortunately the most venomous species of scorpions in the United States. They get probably about 3 inches long or so, and maybe 4. And the thing with them is that they are good climbers, so they can do that even inside. They don't do well on smooth surfaces, so things like glass and stuff, they're not going to crawl on that. But anything that gives them sufficient grip, such as the textured stucco on the outside of your house, yeah, they can crawl on that. So they will climb when they can. And the problem with these bark scorpions is that they can squeeze themselves down. We think of insects as having kind of this hard outer shell. Well, scorpions can squeeze themselves down through a slot or an opening that is the thickness of a credit card. So they are that flexible, at least. So anyway, those are some of the kind of critters that we have to kind of watch out for. So once you've sprayed around the outside of the house and applied whatever you need to your brick fence, I also recommend actually spraying around certain exterior openings you'll see on the outside of the house. So for example, you may have a small plastic pipe that comes out of one exterior wall that's the condensate drain for your air conditioning system. Spray around that too. And also things like you may have an external clean out for a drain pipe that's a clean out that's built into the outside wall. Spray around there as well. Anything that's an access like that where something could slip underneath, you want to just kind of spray like a ring of your particular spray product around there and help keep the bugs out of there. Anything that could be a point of entry, you really want to be very careful about, especially if you have had a history of significant insect problems with your home. Now, the second thing that I recommend, and these are actually fairly easy to use, you do want to keep small children and pets of all kinds away from these, because once you're stuck on these things. And that is what we call glue boards or glue traps. It's basically a flat piece of cardboard, and they have a really, really strong adhesive on it. If you can imagine what rubber cement, I guess, is not as popular as it used to be, but it's that type of stuff. It's this glue that is not only super sticky, but is incredibly stretchy and strong. And so you get an insect or even a small mouse. If you buy a big enough trap, you can actually catch rats. But when you get those, boy, those things are really sticky. So you have to be careful applying those. They come with a plastic layer on top of the adhesive, and you remove that, and then you put it in the spot where you have experienced that you've had some bug problems. I've been using those in the inside of my garage, on either side of the garage door, because we get a lot of things that like to creep and crawl, and they'll come inside the garage door. Now, I want to point out too that you can deter, if you do a little research, you can deter some or prevent some critters from coming in your house if you know what they like to eat. So you might want to check a few things online, do a little Googling online, and find that out. For example, where I live, we have some potential issues for scorpions, and scorpions' favorite food, as it turns out, are crickets. So if you can keep the crickets out, you probably also keep the scorpions away. So you can research facts like that and find out what attracts the things that you've been trying to keep out of your house. And it's often very useful. So like I say, these glue traps, they are very, very sticky. So you do not touch the sticky surface with your skin at all. It's not going to just get off. If you get any little bit of that adhesive on you, it'll wear off before it takes extreme measures to try and even get close to washing that off. So it's just it'll have to wear off. So that's why you really avoid that. Be careful where you place them. Like I say, nowhere near children or pet areas. Just don't even bother, because you get a child or a dog's paw or something gets stuck on there, you got a real problem on your hands. And just handle them generally very carefully. The good news about glue traps is that they are very inexpensive, especially if you order them online. And there's a number of different places that you can get them. There's a variety of pest control websites out there. So there's definitely plenty of opportunity to get a good deal on these glue traps, and they'll generally last you quite a while. Especially, I usually get a size that's about 5" by 7", and those will hold quite a few small insects in particular. So if you put them out, like I say, out in your garage, maybe you've got a spot in your attic or something, where place where nobody goes or something except for the bugs. Hey, you one of these, you put a few of those in, and they last quite a while. And you probably change them out during the summer, of course, a little more active season. So you probably change those out every maybe 2-3 months, something like that. And depending a little on, of course, on where you live in the country. Insects seem to really enjoy humid climates as well. So if you're in a humid area, you may have to change those more often. So then we want to get, finally, is coming into the house now, we want to get to another product application here. And this is going to be a lot safer around children and pets indoors in the house. And that's called DE powder. DE stands for diatomaceous earth. These are actually the fossilized shell remains of really tiny creatures that lived a long time ago, and very high silica content in this stuff. And it's a powder. And the great thing about it is it's absorbent. You want to get food grade if you intend to use this in the house. If you're going to use it in, say, your garage or outdoors, which you can also do, then you wouldn't have to worry too much about it. But if you do use DE powder indoors, then you want to be sure to get food grade, so it is safe around children and pets, just in case they happen to stumble into it. Basically, the way this works, it's kind of handy. It's a simple science application. Basically, what happens is insects secrete an oil from their body, and it keeps their shell in good condition. Well, as we know, the shell on an insect is an exoskeleton. Okay, they wear their skeleton on the outside instead of humans having, as we do, our skeleton on the inside. So because of this, this oil keeps the shell in good shape. Well, what happens is they go walking through this DE powder, having no idea what it is, and the DE powder dehydrates. It absorbs all that oil from them, and then it dries out the skeleton and it breaks. They fall apart. So it's a really kind of a low impact way to do it. Keep your bugs down, and it's, like I say, it's relatively safe, especially around children, pets, if you get the food grade type, and generally works quite well. Insects, I say, they'll go wandering through there and have no idea, and then eventually they dry out too much and they die. So if you want to really avoid the use of chemicals, various kinds, DE is a great way to go. It's a nice natural product. Basically, it's processed, so it's ground up into it's a really fine white powder. Looks a lot like powdered sugar. So this, of course, is something that, if you've been around children, then obviously they could mistake it for something like that. So that's why it's good to get the food grade type. And it's, as I say, safe inside. When you have some that you're storing before applying it, you do want to keep that, of course, in a dry area because it is absorbent. So you want to keep it away from a lot of moisture or anything. So keep it in a nice dry area where it's not going to, soak up some water or something like that. So it'll stay useful for you. But anyway, that's the kind of the basics of what I recommend for steps for pest control. And as I say, we're not talking about winning the war on bugs. What you're doing is setting appropriate boundaries around your home that will give the insects the message that your house is a place they don't want to be. That's basically what we're doing. We're just establishing good boundaries. You may have heard that phrase before. So we're just setting good boundaries between your house and the bugs. And if you maintain that approach and that attitude, I think you'll find you can have a lot of good success just taking care of your own pest control yourself, and you'll save quite a bit of money on hiring one of those services as well. So once again, this is Matt, and thank you for watching, and hope to see you on the next video. Have a good one.